for your time, Dr. Otis, and I'm very excited about interviewing about your research. And would you talk briefly about what's the background of this study?
The background, I had a long relationship with the National Conference for Community and Justice, which then became the Kentucky Conference for Community and Justice, working on a lot of different projects with them in the community. And I had a long relationship, ongoing relationship, working with Camp Anytown. I would go every summer and participate in some of the workshops and things that they did with the kids. And so over time, they were actually working on another project, and we started talking about program evaluation, which there'd only been maybe one evaluation of Camp Anytown, which is all over the country. But there'd only been one evaluation ever done that really amounted to anything. It had been a number of years ago in, I believe, Arizona. And so we started talking about it and decided maybe it was time to do another evaluation, and also being responsive to changes in expectations of funders in terms of the kinds of information they want to say, yes, we'll invest in that. So anecdotal information wasn't really acceptable anymore. You needed some empirical evidence that you were doing something meaningful.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so do you think that the outcome of these findings would affect the funding mechanism, or do you think it helped the program keep funded?
I think that it helped them with other things that they were working on getting funded. Camp Anytown kind of had a steady stream of support from lots of individual funders and people that saw that what the camp was doing was important. What I think the evaluation did is sort of twofold. One is it helped them see where the strengths were and what they were doing. It's a very systematic. You have a bunch of teenagers who've never met one another from different backgrounds gathering in the woods for a week. And it has a profound impact on them. You see the change in a qualitative way by observing their behaviors and watching the bonds that they create and things. But what they were able to do with the empirical information was to kind of figure out where the real strengths were in the program and where there were areas where maybe they were having a little bit less of an impact or weren't really clear on the impact that they were having. The other thing that it did was the model for change was one that you could transplant to other places, and that was actually one of the reasons that we did the evaluation, was we were looking at how you could transplant this model in a very different form, but into the school system, to address issues around bullying and diversity and things like that. And so it actually was a precursor to another project that we then did within the Fayette County school system. That project did get foundation dollars from the Knight Foundation. And so we used the information from what we learned at Anytown to help make the argument for that funding.
I see. And you chose the quantitative methodology over qualitative, but why did you do that?
The biggest reason we used a quantitative methodology was that they had a wealth of qualitative information. They'd been evaluating in a qualitative sense what they'd been doing for years. And part of their regular process at the end of each day with the different activities that they were doing with the youth that were participating was that all of the counselors and the folks who were there delivering different parts of the program would collect and talk about what went on in each one of the workshops and their observations. And so they really had a wealth of information about how that process worked. They had lots of they sought all kinds of feedback from the youth themselves. They kept journals, and so they had lots of qualitative information. And while that's very valuable and it was used to continue to get support to keep the camp going, when you started to head towards looking at foundations and other kinds of grant money, it really wasn't sufficient to make as strong an argument. So what we really ended up doing was coupling all of that qualitative information with quantitative information based on established measures.
Mm-hmm. And would you comment anything for the future social workers about research and program evaluation, because this class is for the CSD concentration and they want to work as a social worker, but why program evaluation research is so important?
Sure. I think that it's probably a lot easier for people who go into clinical settings to think about single system designs, and if you're running a treatment program of some kind, and you can say, right, this is where the treatment occurred, and we can do pre-test, post-test, and I think that it's much easier for people to think about research in that context. I don't think that even the people who are out in community practice have a real clear understanding of how the absence of empirical evidence works against them to keep programs operating and to help them move programs to the next level, because oftentimes programs have very grassroots kind of origins. They're responsive to some need in the community, as they should be. But a lot of times people don't know how to take that to the next level, and one of the things that impedes that, I think, is the lack of understanding of how to evaluate what you're doing, how to become very clear on what you're actually measuring so that you can break apart what's going on and say, okay, this part's working, this part we're not so sure about, this part's not working, all of which funders today want you to be able to say. So being a skilled program evaluator who can go in at the community level and look at what's going on, and particularly when you're talking about things where you're saying, I'm making an argument that this is impacting this community, not just this group of clients, but this community. It's a very challenging thing to do, but it's also one of the reasons you see a lot of programs close. They simply cannot make the argument. They don't know how to do that. And so if we can train MSW level social workers to be able to go in and do that, they can make the difference between community level programs existing or not.
Right. Oh, do you have any further comment?
I think the one comment I will make is that I'm very excited about all the students that we have in community and social development, and appreciate the fact that they understand the value of that.